before we begin, I would just like to thank you all for your massive support of the channel. I'm having tons of fun again creating videos with your positive feedbacks. Shout out to all my subscribers for supporting me, and for all those tenno who keeps watching my content through the years. Thank you all again for the support, and I promise to be pumping content for you guys as much as possible. Now, this video was inspired by a Reddit post I saw earlier today. It was a thread comparing both Nezha and Yareli, saying that they are the same Warframe with just a different skin. The original poster said that both Warframes are somehow identical since they both have an ability that gives them increased movement. They also have something to prevent stagger and knockdowns. They also both have damage reduction skill. They also both have a mean to clean status effect. They also got crowd control, and lastly, they both have the ability to make enemies vulnerable to damage. OP has a point though, and in fact you can also say the same to other Warframes, but not exactly as identical as the Reddit thread about Nezha and Yareli. Just take, for example, Hildryn and her babies. The most notable feature of Hildryn wasn't just the addition of shield gating in the game, or the first Warframe to have insane shield values to use as survivability. She got one notable feature that made Ashe mains cry, and that is the ability to strip not just armor, but also shields. Pillage is an ability that strips all defenses of an enemy. The only problem with this is it needs a lot of power strength for total armor and shield stripping, but you don't want to do this with Hildryn since you'll mess up her survivability. Although you can use blazing pillage to gain shield from enemies with no shields, but then you would need to activate Haven, which has shield consumption per second. Remember this, pillage needs 400% power strength to strip armor, which means you would sacrifice a lot of important mods just to get power strength in the past. Right now, it's achievable with the help of Archon mods and Molt Augmented without sacrificing any mod slot. But then again, pillage wasn't perfect when it comes to defense stripping. That is why Digital Extremes added Hildryn babies in the form of Caliban and then Styanax. Caliban's Fusion Strike will remove all armor and shield of enemies with just one go, and the best part is, it only needs 200% power strength to fully strip the defense of a target without sacrificing any mods for the Warframe build. But this was not perfect as it's slower compared to pillage. This is why they build another Warframe with armor and shield stripping in the form of Styanax. Theros Strike is like the perfected version of pillage when it comes to armor stripping. It only needs 200% power strength also to fully remove the armor and shield of a target, and it has faster casting speed and effect compared to both pillage and fusion strike. The only downside though is it got smaller range compared to pillage, wherein you can strip the armor and shield of enemies around you. Thoros Strike is more like a frontal area of effect, but it's still the best armor strip you can get right now for your Warframe using the Helminth system. But if you don't want any Helminth builds nor specific Warframes, then the Onaru Focus got an armor strip with Caustic Strike and a shield strip with Magnetic Flare. All as Warframe beaten by a kid. Speaking of Styanax, by the way, this Warframe is an evolution of different Warframe ultimates. His grandfather is Ashe. We all know that Ashe was the only Warframe to hit multiple enemies with slash and bleed procs using his Blade Storm ability. But then, Digital Extremes built the granddaughter of Ashe named Garuda. She became /nuke Mummy with her Seeking Talons ability. However, it's not a one-press button nuke them all set up for Garuda. You will need to apply her Seeking Talons first to enemies, then throw the charged up Dread Mirror stack to those enemies so that they will receive heavy slash damage. This /AoE got perfected with Styanax Final Stand, as it became easy to kill multiple enemies and it only needs one button press to melt targets fast. Honestly, I'm still imagining right now what could possibly happen if only Digital Extremes allowed Calivo's collective curse to be subsumable. I can't imagine how broken Styanax would be. Another Warframe that I would like to add in this video is Baruuk. In the past, I can honestly say that Baruuk is an Excalibur wannabe with his Desert Storm. His Exalted Fist has the same mechanic as Excalibur's Exalted Blade, but it's missing something in the past, and that was an augment to make it super broken. Not only did the developer ramp up the status chance of Baruuk's Desert Wind to insane levels, but it added a feature wherein it adapts to enemy weakness. So if you are dealing with a heavy gunner, then it would also apply corrosive to the target, which is its element weakness. It got to the point wherein Excalibur was mad jealous about Baruuk that he ended up disposing his chromatic blade augment, as it's shameful to equip it while Baruuk had an overpowered version of it named Reactive Storm. Instead, he now relies on primer guns to pro status and just buff his exalted blade with something like Eclipse to get millions of damage. Now, let's talk about minor comparison first, before we get into the more hilarious ones. First, we got Oberon and Trinity. They both can heal, but Trinity is better because it also grants damage reduction and shields. For Oberon, though, he can strip armor, while Trinity can also do this, but needs an augment and only can strip a few enemies, while Oberon can fully strip the armor of enemies within the range of his Reckoning ability. They are both healers. They are also both good solo Eidolon hunters, but it only differs on the preference of a player whether they want to play a goat or a nun. Next, we have Frost and Gara. The latter tried to copy Frost's snow globe, but it can easily break. That is why Gara focuses her prowess to damage, stacking with her Splinter Storm to gain insane millions of damage. We can also find some similarities with Rhino and Revenant, but to the extent that Revenant completely outshines Rhino when it comes to survivability. Just think of this: Rhino has iron skin, which is now considered as overguard. This overguard serves as extra health for Rhino that he will spend to survive, just like Revenant has invulnerability charges that he can spend to survive enemy attacks. Both Overguard and Mesmer Skin can also negate status effect, but it's hilarious that Rhino needs to build over millions of Overguard to stay alive in 5 minutes, compared to Revenant, wherein he can freely cast Mesmer Skin and gain survivability. The reason why, in my opinion, Mesmer Skin is a better iron skin is the fact that it got another layer of defense in the form of crowd control, as attackers receive 100% of the reflected damage and status effects, while also becoming stunned for 5 seconds. This allows you to regenerate energy so you can recast Mesmer Skin if needed. While this is not the identical counterpart of Mesmer Skin, as it's more like a combined shield gating, plus Rhino's Overguard and Wukong's past Defy invulnerability mechanic, still the abilities acts the same. Now, this form of survivability is laughable for Limbo, as he can stay in the rift and never get damage, but that was in the past. Right now, Limbo is scared with Eximus units, and I don't know why even Eximus unit can reach Limbo's rift plane without the Warframe allowing them. Can you explain this to me, Digital Extremes? Also, Mesa and Titania can be compared because of their exalted pistols. Titania is like Mesa without the aimbot, but with flying mechanic. While Titania is far better in speedrunning things, Mesa excels in defense-type missions or just exterminating things at the fastest time possible, at normal star chart, that is. This is an example of the same concept when it comes to exalted weapons, but the Warframe differs in how they are played. And then, let's dive to the most hilarious comparison of them all. First, did you know that Gar is Vauban's daughter? You might not notice it yet, but Gar's abilities are somehow derived from Vauban. To be exact, a buffed version of some of Vauban's abilities. The main concept of Gar is vacuum and electrocution, which we can also see on Vauban's kit. First of all, Vortex is like the ultimate version of Gaia's Coil Horizon, while Gaia's Arch Sphere is the ultimate version of Vauban's Tesla Nervos. These Warframes share the same concept, but you don't notice it that much, since both Warframe are played differently by players. In addition, Gaia is being tied to electric-themed Warframe, which if we consider this, then she is the female version of Volt. But if you take a look at Volt's kit, they don't work the same, as Volt is more about speed and nuking, wherein Gaia is all about grouping and nuking. Also, just like Hildryn, Lavos got his own babies. We all know that this is the most famous Warframe when it comes to elemental prowess, but mind you, Lavos is not the first since back in the days. We got Spore Queen Sarene, which was used by players to spread multiple status to enemies. Well, Sarene has no ability to spread multiple status just like Lavos, but players combined different things, such as weapons to pros more than Toxin and Viral in the past with Sarene. That is why she was called Condition Overload Goddess in the past. But right now this title is claimed by Voruna, the adopted child of Lavos. Voruna has a sister named Citrine, but among the two Warframes, the Condition Overload of Voruna is more potent compared to Citrine. Citrine has this ability called Preserving Gem that can inflict multiple status to enemies, but it's slower compared to Voruna's Fangs of Raksh. While if compared with Lavos, the Warframe is considered a god tier, as the alchemist will have to work hard to proc multiple status by brewing elements using his abilities, compared to Voruna that can proc 10 status in just one cast of Fangs of Raksh. Now let's get back to Ash. This Warframe got messed up a couple of times by Digital Extremes. First, it lost its purpose when Digital Extremes decided to add defense strip instead of just armor strip. Then, a better copy of Bladestorm were implemented in another Warframe. And to add insult to injury, the developer also mock Ash by giving the best combo of this Warframe to another Warframe. I'm talking about Caliban. So, you all know that Ash was super busted with a fatal teleport build, and then you subsume marked for death on the Warframe. It can nuke a room with millions and even billions of damage in the past. But this wasn't intended as usual, and Digital Extremes nerf the synergy. Right now they are mocking Ash by giving Caliban a better fatal teleport that gives you red crit also with Wrathful Advance, but the only difference is instead of finisher damage, you have insane access to slash weapons, which means heavy attacks with slash-based will even make your damage better. Not to mention that Caliban also got Collective Curse, which some transfer the damage dealt from a target to surrounding enemies affected by the curse. If you combo this too, then you get something that works like Fatal Teleport marked for death Ash in the past. Sad life really now for Ash, but I hope he gets better with some changes in the future. And lastly, do you know why there are just a few players playing Nova right now? The best community-created Warframe in the past. Well, Gloom exists that gives you 95% slow compared to Nova's Molecular Prime that only gives 75% speed debuff at max rank. But Squad Leader, don't forget about Speed Nova, which you can use to make leveling fast in Hydron Sedna. This got also fucked up by solo leveling using the carpet bombing method in Telesto Saturn with Savage Silence, or Thermal Sunder Nuke in the Sanctuary Onslaught. This video is showing you both the bad side and good side of developing new Warframes right now. I think the main goal of Digital Extremes for creating similarities in a Warframe is that it could interest potential players who main a specific Warframe to try out the newer ones. Just take, for example, if you main Lavos or Sareen in the past because of their condition overload abilities, then you must try Varuna and Citrine because it does the same thing, but it got additional abilities that might work for you. The downside is, some old Warframes become more and more obsolete every day, and somehow they need a total overhaul to make them great again. I hope that you did not just enjoy this video, but learn something about it. This is it for me, and I will see you on my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Stay safe and keep having fun.